Ba-dum, intro music. What's up, everybody? Andrew Wall here, host and executive producer at Illuvium. And we've got a special episode for you today, diving into the future of the metaverse. We've got another game studio in the house today, building a AAA game. Thank God. There's at least a couple other studios out there attempting to bring AAA gaming to this space. We're going to dive in and understand Shrapnel. If you haven't already learned about their project, we're going to learn about everything that they're doing that's unique and interesting, and talking about how we can get mainstream adoption by building AAA games in this space. Without further ado, I've got a special guest here. We've got Naomi in the house, co-founder and head of partnerships at Shrapnel. Naomi, how you doing today?
Hey, Andrew. I'm really well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. A lot of people in our community, as soon as they heard we were bringing Shrapnel in, they were really excited. So some people in our community are already familiar with Shrapnel, which is great.
I
Today,
love to hear
Mhm.
it. I love to hear it.
Good. I love to hear it as well. Really quick, here's what we're going to cover with Naomi, and we're going to get into a deep discussion here. This is going to get philosophical. This is going to be interesting. Here's what we got for everybody today. We are going to talk about AAA games. Why even make AAA games at all in this space? We'll talk about that. They are doing unique things with creators at Shrapnel. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. How is this different, and what is unique about what Shrapnel's doing in Illuvium, of course? And everything that we're talking about in this episode today, of course, is not financial advice. We are just talking about video games, developing the future of our industry. This may be a part of your research, but obviously we're not telling you to buy anything. Be a smart person and understand that. Perfect. Naomi, you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right, on IlluviTalks, we're leading the conversation about the future of gaming. AAA gaming is been the approach of Illuvium, right? We want to make a game with AAA graphics that looks really premium, that's going to bring in that Web 2 and that mainstream gamer in. It appears that Shrapnel is doing the same thing and taking a similar approach. So let me ask you, Naomi, why decide to build a AAA FPS game on the blockchain? Why not just quickly release some indie quality AA game and then just shove it on the air? Why take that approach?
Well, I mean, if you look at the pedigree of the studio, you'll see that there's a lot of AAA game background, on everybody's resume, right? This is a video game studio full of hardcore gamers in and of themselves, and these are the kind of games that we want to play, and so these are the kind of games we want to make. And AAA games are hard. They take a long time. They take a lot of people and a lot of effort. And that's the kind of project that's worth doing for us. And the thing is that there's a lot of really great, indie games out there, but they're not the ones that get the kind of um, player base that big AAA games get. And if we want to be sustainable, we need a large base.
That totally makes sense, 100%. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What is Shrapnel going to offer gamers that are currently playing AAA first-person shooter games, maybe like Call of Duty or upcoming Overwatch 2 or Apex Legends or any of these games, Fortnite, etc.? What are you going to offer those AAA gamers that they can't already get in their current AAA games? What's the unique hook there, just strictly from a gaming standpoint? Let's put blockchain and NFTs and all of that nonsense aside. What are they going to get from you that's unique on the game side, on the first person shooter side?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? Because there's a lot of first person shooter games out there to choose from. I think it's become pretty clear that a lot of these franchises have been around for a really long time. And, you can only iterate so many times on the same ideas. I think first and foremost, one of the things that will make Shrapnel a little bit different than your standard first person shooter is that one of our main mechanics and devices in the game will be extraction. So the idea that it isn't just about how many headshots can you get, it's about how long can you last, how much treasure can you collect, and can you get out with your treasure before somebody else takes you down and takes it from you.
Extraction is one of my favorite modes in the Division, in Division 2. in the
Mhm.
dark zone, I believe.
Mhm. We talk about
And
the division and the dark zone a
yeah,
lot around here. Yeah.
yeah, okay, lots of Dark Zone fans out there, but,
Uh-huh.
so why choose something like Extraction versus the quote unquote "more popular or mainstream modes"? Is that just to be unique, or is there some sort of interesting interaction or lore aspect here that is gonna get people really interested in in that mode? Because so far, Extraction mode hasn't become, like, wildly popular, like, let's say Battle Royale, right? It's not battle tested, if you will, or mass market tested. So why the decision for Extraction, other than it's awesome? I
Well,
understand that could be a good reason, right?
I mean, this is the part where it's like I kind of have to start talking about, Web3 and blockchain, right? Because
Hmm.
when we're talking about extracting things that at the end of the day could actually truly belong to you, that you can
Mm,
extract not just from a level, but from a game ecosystem entirely and turn it into something else at it in your wallet, then now you're talking about really interesting stuff, right? The other thing that's interesting about extraction for us and what we call high stakes treasure hunting is that it actually opens up the playing field for a bunch of other different styles of gameplay, right? There are notions within our design team around the idea that there are ways to play in any given session where you don't necessarily have to go into full engagement of battle in order to come out of a session successful. There is a notion of the scavenger who just picks around the outside edges of a level, looks for some choice pieces of equipment or other treasures, right? And then like sneaks their way to the first drop ship and bails the hell out, right? Because the idea is that each session, the longer it goes on, the higher the stakes become and the higher the risks and rewards become. And if you're not interested in those kind of high stakes game modes, then you can still play a level and get out before the stakes get too high for your blood, right? And that's
got it. Okay.
interesting because that to me that says there's lots of ways to play and there's lots of different types of players. So it makes it
Hmm.
much more it opens up the field to, a whole new category of people engaging in the platform.
Got it. Yeah, sneaky, sneaky mode. They're saying in chat right there. Love it, sneaky,
Exactly.
sneaky. Yeah. So a different type of sneaky gameplay in first-person shooter could be that unique aspect that you're bringing to the table. That was really interesting. You mentioned that a moment ago. So, um, the the idea that in a traditional extraction mode game or game mode, you're just extracting stuff that you never get to own. You're just
Mhm.
extracting items and earning loot that sits in your inventory. It might be cool and you can use it in the game, but you
Yep.
can't go trade it on an exchange. You can't get any monetary value out of it. You don't own it. And so that's interesting that you chose extraction because it's all about getting loot essentially in a first person shooter rather than just killing to be the king, to be the best guy that kills people.
I
And
mean,
so
don't get
that,
me wrong, we're gonna keep track of those stats too, and if that's
sure.
important to you, you'll be able to have those bragging rights of being the best killer for sure. But there's also other things that can be going on in there with extraction, right?
What kinds of things are players going to extract in extraction mode? So, for example, our extraction mode, if you will, in Illuvium is our overworld. And in our overworld, players are going to be exploring around these fantastical sci fi universes and worlds and regions. And the things they'll be extracting from that will be harvesting resources and then getting our Illuvials, which are essentially our Pokemon for adults in Illuvium. And then once they have that Illuvial, they can then go use it to go battle in the arena. And so, them being in that overworld gameplay experience and them essentially extracting that Illuvial from that gameplay experience allows them to use it in another experience or trade it on the decks. And it makes it more meaningful than just, like, let's say, collecting a Pokemon in a normal Pokemon game. So, in extraction, what kind of stuff are you going to be extracting here? Is this guns, skins, vehicles? Like, tell us about what's the hook there? Like, what is the cool stuff Shrapnel's offering that is worth extracting?
Sorry, I'm laughing because every time the word vehicles comes up, like people on the game team's eyes start twitching because
It's like a
vehicles
whole
are hard.
Vehicles are really hard.
Vehicles are hard, and they're like they're like way out on the roadmap. But yes, all of those things, right? Like gear, guns, skins, other people's NFTs. The notion is that pretty much every session is a like whatever I take in, I could lose kind of thing. So there's a little bit of that nod to Tarkov, right? We looked at Tarkov a lot when we started working on this game, where we're like, okay, what's the good stuff that's going on in Tarkov, and like what is the stuff that makes Tarkov so frustrating that people don't want to play it, and like let's like stay away from some of that stuff. And one of the things that we think Tarkov does really great is the stakes, right? Is you can lose everything in any given session. So yeah, all of that plus resources, right? All the resources. And then there's the notion of Sigma, which is the element that is in the ground, on the ground, scattered through the sacrifice zone, that is from the, you know, impact on the moon, and this debris that's raining down from the cosmos across this, you know, swath of Earth where all of the gameplay takes place.
Got it. Yeah, Illuvium is going to be taking a very close eye at what Shrapnel's doing. I'm certainly going to be taking a close eye because we're planning on launching with 3 game genres at Illuvium. We're going to be doing a mobile town builder game, Illuvium Zero, an overworld sort of RPG type of experience with our overworld game, and then an auto battler with Arena. But we've announced that we're going to do 6 more games in the Illuvium universe later. Obviously, first-person shooter is on the list of ones that we're considering, right? And so I'm looking to you guys as the only AAA first-person shooter I'm aware of that's being developed and is going to potentially go to market in any reasonable amount of time. I'm looking to you guys to try new things, to try to break shit and see what you can do on the Web3 side. And maybe we can get pointers from you. And maybe if you guys decide to make an RPG, maybe you can get pointers from us. So that's why I like seeing people this early and risk taking. And that's why I'm talking to you about this right now. Let me ask you, you guys are on Avalanche, right?
Yes.
Got it. But you're currently selling NFTs on OpenSea with Ethereum?
We did our first NFT sale was on OpenSea with Ethereum. Yes.
Got it. But you're planning on having on everything on Avalanche?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay, got it. My question is, I know you're not technical.
I am not.
But why decide to do something like Avalanche when the ecosystem is so much smaller on Avalanche than on Ethereum and Ethereum layer 2s? Like I'd say like 80% or more of games are building on Ethereum right now, and then maybe a small percentage are on Avalanche and Solana. So was this just strictly a technical decision for helping like support the functionality? Then you don't have to know what it is, but was it strictly a technical and development decision?
So yeah. Hey, so this is my like rudimentary understanding of it.
Okay.
There were a couple of factors in this choice. One was the fact that Avalanche has such a small carbon footprint, which is really important to us because we recognize that this is something that is important to the community at large. It also has something to do with volume, and we anticipate that the volume of transactions ultimately that Shrapnel will eventually get to will be really high, and that Avalanche technology can handle that volume. And then the third piece of it is creating our own subnet. And I don't fully understand all the technical or long-term implications of that. I just know that it was in the plus column for the people who are smarter than me who made that decision.
Totally. Look, I get it. I'm as a spokesperson here, or whatever you want to call me for Illuvium, I don't understand all of the technical aspects of the blockchain development of Illuvium either. Just wanted to ask, you know, this is something that, you know, let's talk about, we'll come back to that in a moment, about cross-chain partnerships and cross-chain and interoperability and kind of where we want that to go. We'll tackle that later. That's why I was asking, because for me, I wish something like Shrapnel were on Ethereum or on IMX, so that maybe there would be the potential for for a closer collaboration between AAA games, right? And right now there is sort of a chasm between blockchain games on one chain, Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum, etc. And it is unclear what the multi-chain or cross-chain functionality will be in the future or when that will be available. And I
Right.
don't want that gap to separate really great games and really great studios from helping each other in this new space. That's why I asked that question. Just wanted to understand the decision making there. Okay, got it. But scalability, totally understand. Illuvium's on IMX because we needed scalability as well. We couldn't be on Ethereum base layer. That wouldn't make any sense. So next, let's talk about the how to get Web 2 gamers into Web 3. And I know this is a topic that is really near and dear to your heart. But before we do, I must play this trailer for marketing reasons. Check it out. IlluviTalks. Go to illuvium.io/IlluviTalks and customize your custom avatar. That's our custom avatar project, by the way. We're not doing like normal PFPs. We're letting people customize their avatars. And you guys can sign up and build yours today with cool trailers and all of that. Okay, back to the conversation. Had to do that for marketing reasons.
That
You
was
understand.
intense. That was intense. No, I understand.
It was intense. She's like, I'm here for an interview, and he just shot me with a trailer here. Okay, let's talk about the transition from Web 2 to Web 3.
Yeah.
How does a Web 3 game studio, like the one you've co-founded, think about gaming differently than a Web 2 studio? What's the shift in mindset? What's the shift in how you're approaching this space that Web 2 is missing?
So I think in a lot of ways there isn't a huge shift in a lot of the thinking, right? I think so for us, the North Star of what we're doing always, always, always is fun game, right? So no matter what happens at the end of the day, no matter what technologies we're using or what functionalities we're providing, all of that aside, if the game isn't fun, it doesn't matter, right? So, in that regard, I think it's the same as any other project we would do as video game makers. Where it gets different for us and what we've had to adjust around is the Web3 space. I think it's born of necessity. In the Web3 space, there's been a fair number of bad faith actors. There's been some
And you
people
can
that
say
have
that
had
again.
right. There's been some people that have had some horrible experiences. There have been projects that have been, rug pulled and scams and Ponzi schemes. You name it, it's all happened, right? And a lot of people got burned. They got excited. They were let down, and so because of that, this notion of what we would normally in the Web 2 space think was a bad thing, the fully doxed team is super important, which we did right out the gate, which would be like unheard of in other game spaces, right? And this idea that we are showing our cards as best as we can and as safely as we can for like our own sanity and our own sake pretty much every step of the way through this process, which is also completely unheard of, especially in AAA game making, right? Normally, what you would do is you would make an announcement, you might drop a dope trailer that had, very little to do with what hope the outcome looked like, but just to get people excited about this idea that you have for a game. And then the whole team goes heads down for 2, 3, 5, I don't know. How long does Rockstar go heads down? Like 7 years before a new game comes out, right? And then we pop back up.
Infinity.
Right. We pop back up and go, here it is. We did a thing. And it's like, where were you for the last 7 years? Like, trust us, we were working on a game. And so in Web3, it's very much like, okay, here's a concept and here's a, rudimentary piece of gameplay footage for us just fucking around in the studio. Excuse my language. I've been really good so far.
It's okay.
Normally I cuss like a sailor, Andrew, so I'm
me
feeling like I'm
too.
on my best
It's okay.
behaviors.
My kids do not watch this show.
But anyway, you know what I mean, right? So it's like
Yeah.
we're very like on Front Street about everything we're doing. We have a Discord already, we have a Twitter following, right? Like we're constantly tweeting and dropping in the Discord, like, hey, this is what's going on. We're talking to our community on a daily basis. You know, we're engaging them in the process. We're bringing them into some of the decision making where it makes sense, right? So that they can have some collaboration with us. They can have some sense of ownership. We're taking suggestions. We actually listen to what they have to say, and we bring it into our meetings and we go, well, the community is saying this. What do we think about that? Like we literally have conversations about it and consider, like, is that something we should, put into the roadblock? It wrote the plan and the roadmap. Thank you. And so it's just a very different process to be so publicly engaged with the community and building the community while we're building the project, right?
Yeah,
And when
makes
you
sense.
talk
Yeah.
when you talk to other, game studios who aren't doing this and you tell them like, well, yeah, it's really
Mhm.
crazy. Like this is what we're doing. And we're fully engaged in the community, like right out the gate. And it's all very transparent. Literally their response is almost visceral. Like, ooh, that sounds horrible. But what we found is it's not horrible at all. It's actually been like a big morale booster for us. We're doing really hard stuff and we work really hard every day with our heads down. I mean, we have fun when we can, but we're, pedal to the metal over here, and being that highly engaged with the community has actually been really good for us because it inspires us to keep going in a way that I think if we were doing this locked away in a room somewhere without that engagement, we might not be able to make it.
That totally makes sense. And getting that live feedback during the development process can be really beneficial. I mean, at Illuvium, our community, they let us know what they think. And they have influenced a number of decisions along the way, every day, really. Our co founders are in there in chat with them. Our developers are in there in chat with them. We do interviews with them regularly. We even have our community streaming on our own official Twitch. And of course, we're a DAO. And so ultimately, they have to vote on all of the decision making in Illuvium. And I believe the plan with Shrapnel, right, is to go full blown DAO. Y'all are going full autonomous. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is the
Mm.
ultimate goal. Yes.
So, I mean, let me ask you that. So, how do you balance? So, this has been a challenge for us. How do you balance being able to be efficient with decision making and moving forward on projects and big decisions as, like, let's say a more centralized entity, let's say the game studio, versus getting feedback from the community on certain aspects of the game development? Where do you see community feedback and DAO feedback being most beneficial? And then where do you see you not wanting to get feedback and you just need to go get the job done? I mean, because that's a fine line to ride, and nobody has provided a perfect example of that yet because we're so early. How do you decide when you listen and when you don't? Because ultimately, you need to get that effing product out the door, right?
Sure. I mean, yes, exactly. We can't come to a standstill because, we've taken the feedback so far that we aren't even be able to move forward anymore. I think part of the key is to with internally what we do is we talk about like, okay, well, we're not really sure which direction to go with this or that. Like, is this is this a good thing to ask the community about? Like, we want to give the community a chance to participate on a level that makes sense for us and for them. And so some of it's about right now, it's about choosing what is the right thing to go to the community for feedback on, right? And we have a lot of internal conversations about that. When the community gives unsolicited, feedback, then it's like, we do talk about it and we weigh it. Like, is this legitimate? Is this something we should be looking at? We consult with, we have some people on the team that are, deeply Web3, embedded people, people that are like really technical, and especially on the blockchain side, that where others of us are not, who are in these spaces and have been in these spaces longer than a lot of the other people on the team have. And we utilize them as kind of a finger in the wind to let us know, like, hey, this came up. Is this legitimate? Should we worry about this? Should we think about this? Is this feedback we should take? Right. And then whenever possible, we will literally take a decision that needs to be made, and we will present it to the community. Okay, you know what? We need you to decide. We're not really sure. We love them both, so you tell us which way to go. Right. I lost your sound.
It's because I was muted and I was drinking a water. That would be why. I was
I thought we
chugging
were
a
having
water.
like real technical difficulties again. I thought it was
No,
gonna be
whenever I
more.
full screen my guest, it's because I'm drinking a water or like picking my
Okay.
nose or something, and I don't want people to see. Okay,
That's great. That's great.
so hit me with it. What is the holy shit feature or holy shit moment or big realization with Shrapnel that are going to get people in the first person shooter community to go, you've got to try this game? What is that hook? Like, what is that thing that people are going to say to each other when they virally share this with their bros that are, or guys and gals that are playing first person shooter games right now? What's the hook? Help me.
Well, the thing we talk about a lot is um okay, so I can't say it in like a sentence, Andrew. So this is what gets us excited. The notion that there could be, say, a rifle in the game that was owned and played with by your your favorite Twitch streamer who's in this space. And maybe they went into a tournament or they went into a match and they lost it to another player. But because it's an NFT and it's on the chain and it's documented, it will always have the provenance of being the gun that was played by that Twitch streamer. And now
That's interesting.
we're all vying for that
Mhm.
gun. And like for
Ooh.
me, that's what's really interesting about this space and NFTs in this space. Is not even just about the ownership, it's about provenance, which is something that I think people in the art world understand. It's a very important thing. Like, where did it come from? Who had it last? But in the gaming space, in the NFT space, I think that in those types of situations, it becomes just as relevant, right? And there's also this notion that as it goes along and it gets sold from hand to hand, the contract is necessarily already giving out the benefit to whoever built the contract in the first place, and they're constantly getting their piece of the pie as a creator, right? And now we're getting into the creator stuff, which is really like the coolest of the cool stuff, I think.
That's where I'm kind of headed with this right now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you guys. Is how Shrapnel is integrating creators into this process. So, um, as it stands right now with Illuvium, we're designing pretty much everything in house or with third party studios. We don't really have plans at the moment to let random people design Illuvium stuff and put it in our games. However, we are doing things like Illuvial blueprints that you can earn through our mobile game, Illuvium Zero, and people that scan and discover those can use these blueprints, and they can essentially use that blueprint to manufacture those skins. And they are the exclusive person in the entire world that can manufacture that skin and sell it on the marketplace. So it does give people some autonomy to have something and then sell it if they decide, or to keep it for themselves. But they didn't actually make the design themselves. Now, we may end up implementing some kind of creator or community map building or customization type of features in the future, but that is not in our launch scope. However, in your launch scope, you've got the most robust creator economy, if you will, or creator integration I've ever seen in a AAA game ever. So help us understand how you're going to be integrating creators and how the creators are going to get a piece of the action, if you will, as their creation is used by other players in the economy of Shrapnel. Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best because these are conversations that are still happening. Like, how we do this, what does it look like, right? What do we allow, what do we not allow, that kind of thing. But it's been an evolving idea from the very beginning, but it has been a part of the scope of the project from the very beginning. It was actually really the whole reason for this game to begin with. So if we go back to the beginning, our CEO Mark Long came to us and said, "Look, I got this pitch for this game. It's basically been an idea that I've had for 20 years, and it turns out that blockchain technology is the thing that's going to make this actually truly possible." So going back to the days when it was really common for PC gamers in different games to mod their own levels and create their own maps. and play with their friends on the maps that they made, which was super cool. But there was no mechanism in that for them to be compensated or rewarded in any way for that work that they did, even though they were really enhancing that game platform and that game ecosystem, right? So the idea is people want to create things for their friends to play on or other people to enjoy, and they should have ownership in that, like real true ownership in that. And Web3 technology gives us the ability to attribute true ownership to the things that we create digitally. So the map creator ecosystem especially is really interesting to me, because what we'll do is we will create the best and probably evolve over time, a set of tools for people to be able to put together and publish their own maps within the platform. And then really it's a who's ever making the best maps wins kind of thing, where the more people that play your map and choose to be on your map, the more traffic that goes through your map, the more
That is so fascinating.
more token rewards that you get, right? And then there'll always be kind of what we call a center ice. Center ice will be where the best of the best maps sit, which will be visually the center of where, the UI for when you drop into Shrapnel and choose which map you want to play on. And everybody that has had any part to play in the creation of that map will, get some kind of reward in Shrap tokens. So it really incentivizes people to play the maps that they love, people to make the maps that they want to make, and get people to go and play their maps and decide that they do love the map that you've made, right? So there's a whole other creator ecosystem that just falls out of that like naturally, right? So
Got it. Yeah, so I'm pulling that up right now on the screen, what you're referring to. And here you're seeing kind of different map framework. This is the map framework for everybody to understand. And at the center are basically the most popular maps, essentially the ones at the center are going to be played by people more often. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, that would be the notion, right? So the idea is that if they're at the center, they're visually the first ones that people are going to see. So they're the more likely ones for people to play. And therefore, you were more likely to get more rewards for your map if it's sitting on that. And then we have all these other ways to incentivize people to play maps and to vote and stake on maps to get them closer and closer to the center so that they can push them over into the podium. And the podium—
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. So the podium ends up being the exhibition center, right, for the best maps. And it could be, and we end up switching out where maps are sitting on a regular cadence, and it's all based on votes and staking and foot traffic, right?
That's so cool. I mean, this reminds me big time of Warcraft 3. So Warcraft 3, I mean, you're shaking your head. You're familiar with it. It's the most influential map creator ever. And for those of you out there that are not familiar, quick gaming history lesson. Have you ever heard of MOBAs? Have you ever heard of that genre? The biggest esports ever. It came from a map creator that Blizzard put into Warcraft 3. And players out there ended up designing Dota, Defense of the Ancients, the very first MOBA game on that map creator. And then that became Dota 2. And then the folks that designed that map in the first place went off to go design League of Legends. And then the rest is history. And because they put that custom map creator into Warcraft 3, it actually extended the life cycle of Warcraft 3 significantly. I played about 1,000 hours of custom maps personally in Warcraft 3, outside of climbing the ladder. And it ended up making that franchise last. People even play it today by the thousands, Warcraft 3, in part due to the custom map creator. And of course, we've seen the success of titles like Minecraft and Roblox, which are using creator designed content to extend the life cycles of those games, or it's even centrally related to those games. And they have been wildly successful as well. So I think that this concept makes a ton of sense. I have yet to see this be executed in a first-person shooter, though. And
well, we wanted to do everything on hard mode, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, so help me understand this. So with Minecraft, you can design an entire world and a custom experience. And so having a customized world makes sense. You can do parkour, you can make machines, you can play with cute stuff, you can fight zombies. The experiences range vastly.
Hmm.
In something like Roblox, it's something similar. Even in something like World of Warcraft, because of the layouts of the maps and what have you, you can create something that truly transforms the original game of Warcraft 3 into a new game, like we saw with MOBAs. Help me understand the transformational potential in a first person shooter game. Now, I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying I've never seen map creation fundamentally transform a first person shooter and make it something completely brand new. So it's hard for me to understand why people are going to go totally bananas over custom maps. Help me understand that.
I mean, that's a really good question, right? We have a lot of ideas about what that could mean. And it's really hard I think it was one of those things where I personally, it's like, I want to give everyone the Legos and then see what
Right.
happens, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that we underestimate what people can and will do if given the tools to go and create whatever comes out of their imagination, right? So there
Hmm.
is a notion that we can't even anticipate some of the ways that gameplay will flesh out based on how people in our community choose to build maps with the blocks that we give them to build with.
Okay. Got it. So just like in Minecraft or Roblox, they couldn't have imagined all the
Yep.
things that would have come out of their minds. And so you can't even imagine what's going to come out of the minds of your community. In order to make something like custom maps work and to be a real hook for your game, you need to have players there already, though. Like the
Yes,
custom maps themselves don't bring in players. The custom maps re-engage current players and get them to stick around, right? And to
that's right.
contribute more. So what is the initial hook then with Shrapnel? Like with Illuvium, we're all initial hook. Like everything's up front, and then we don't have, a custom maps feature that's going to keep them around to keep the gameplay fresh. It's
Right.
on us to make them the additional content in Illuvium, not on the community to do that. So what is the initial package that Shrapnel is going to deliver that you can play that's going to hook everybody? And then once they're there, they're going to say, well, I would love to make a custom map and I want to be on the podium.
Right. Well, we're going to be a free to play game, which I think is one of the things that will help us right out the gate. Right. We're not going to be we're going to be a PC game, not a console game that you have to drop $100 to join in on. Right. So it's a free to play game, and I think the hook is it's a free to play game. You don't have to have any knowledge of Web3. You don't have to invest at all in any of the token economy. You can just come in, drop in, and start playing shooter games, and you can immediately start extracting loot from our levels. And then once you have that loot, we will make sure to let you know that that loot has real world value, and would be that should be enough of a hook to bring a lot of people back in. I don't know a lot of first person shooters where you can go play it for free, and when you leave the game, you can bring actual real world value out of the game with you.
I don't. I know like maybe one, and it certainly isn't AAA.
Mhm.
So yes, okay. So this would be the first AAA first-person shooter to attempt that. I was
Yes.
looking through your tokenomics in your white paper, and there is this significant portion of tokens allocated to play and earn. I forget whether it's 35%. Maybe you can correct me there on that exact number. That's going to be a part of the earning pool of tokens that I believe that's Shrap token that's going to be available for players to earn. Here's my question. Um, how can you give away 30% of your tokens and not significantly decrease the value per token?
Okay, well, now you're asking me financial questions, which is about as bad as asking me technical questions, Andrew.
Okay, got it. I just wanted to ask,
No, I
is
mean,
there like
I
a
get it.
deflationary mechanic in the Shrap token? Is there some other mechanism? Like, I'm just wondering if you guys have given that consideration. Because that is the sort of the copy paste model right now that a lot of people are using, right? allocate a third of your tokens for play and earn because you want to reward players, you have the right intentions. But my concern is if you have a third of your tokens that you're giving away to players, similar to printing money in central banks, you're increasing basically the money supply, essentially of Shrap token, by giving it away through earning, thus decreasing the value of the money of the token itself. I'm just wondering what consideration you guys have given to that, because I don't want to see that model. Maybe that model is viable, maybe it's not. But so far, all of the examples I've seen of like play and earn tokens, the tokens have not appreciated in value. But we are in a crypto crash right now, so I mean, I understand
There is that. This is what I know. We have some very, very, very smart people who have spent the last year fleshing out how the tokenomics will work within our game, right? And within the DAO. So I know that these questions have come up, and I know also that we used literal what's that thing called? The Moroccan model, is that what it's called? Or there's a game, there's a video game like economic model that you can literally use. It's like you can put all of your information in, and then you can run simulations. And you run these financial simulations like through the computer model, like thousands and thousands and thousands of times, to see how everything ends up. And then you tweak all of the inputs and the outputs and where things go, so that you make sure that you are keeping a robust and not diluted economy, right? So I know that when we sat down and started figuring out the actual specifics of how all of these, sinks and fountains will work within the games and within the DAO, I know that all this stuff came up. So I'm confident that if we are setting aside 30 or 35% of the token to be earned and go back into the community through gameplay, then we've been thorough and thoughtful about how that is all going to work in relation to the value of the token.
Got it. Just asking.
No, I appreciate that.
We've got 10% allocated to earn, which is significantly less than like the average game, and we're not even exactly sure how we're going to implement that. Like, we're being very, very careful with after watching Axie Infinity print NFTs and tokens and watching the value go down to nothing, basically. And so that was a cautionary tale. And also, our NFTs in Illuvium are inherently deflationary. So with Illuvatars, you burn the accessories onto the final Illuvitar, literally burning the NFTs from existence, and they've ceased to exist. Same thing with Illuvials that you catch. You literally have to burn them and then combine them into a more powerful Illuvial, creating deflationary mechanics in the economy versus inflationary. And so with inflation being such a hot topic right now in the news and what have you, I feel like it could be a huge boon to our space if we latch onto that narrative. And that's something I'm trying to do, where we're keeping in mind what happens in traditional economies. We understand inflation bad, and we understand deflationary mechanics good, or at least keeping a set supply of something good. And I think that that's something that people are now sensitive to. Even the average person, even my mom, is now sensitive to inflation, right? Anyway, just wanted to bring that up as an idea to discuss. I'm curious to see how that works out for all of you guys. And I think for a game like Shrapnel, that's really creator economy focused, having the rewards there makes even more sense for you guys. You want to be able to reward people instantly and have them have a simple reward in mind for creating maps and for contributing. And if the reward is this like weird, maybe you get some long-term payoff thing, not a token in your pocket right now, it might be harder for them to wrap their head around. Do you think that's fair to say?
I think that is fair to say. And I also think, when we look at the economy that we're setting up as a whole, then you add the creator economy to that. You put into that, the cost of mint, the transaction fees, and that type of thing as things are moving around within the economy. I think that it does end up circulating back into the treasury. So I believe it's possible that even that a percentage of that 30 or 35% that you were talking about was actually part of, I'm not 100% certain, but it might have been part of the creator pool, because we absolutely are setting aside a chunk of the pot for the creator pool for map creation and for creator payouts when people are being really good creators within the ecosystem.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense to me. Thanks for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
All a part of the discussion. Let's see what model works out, right? If
Yeah.
your creator model works out, you better believe I'm talking to our co-founders and saying, let's add custom Illuvium maps, please.
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 Yeah.
Let's look further out in the future. I want to, I know that you went from HBO and from the traditional content space. So did I.
Mm-hmm.
I went from Web 1 to Web 2, jumped here into Web 3. You jumped in, I assume because you were excited about stuff here and you're excited about where this space is going and where this technology is going. So let me ask you, 10 years from now, we're doing this interview in the year 2032. All right.
It's a date.
10 years from now, we're both looking much younger. Both of our games are very successful.
Highly successful.
And we're collaborating. We got some Shrapnel stuff in Illuvium stuff in Shrapnel. Everything's just we're really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
What is the space around us in the industry as the two leaders in this industry? How does the space look different than today? What happened 10 years from now versus today? Where do you see things going?
I mean, I am not a crystal baller at all, Andrew. And 10 years.
Not a baller.
Not a baller. Crystal or otherwise. I would say, what I hope, I can tell you what I hope. I hope that that the Web3 space grows up. That's what I hope. I hope it grows up and becomes not a segmented piece of the Twitter sphere and and the web space. Walled off from everybody else, yelling the loudest about how awesome it is, but has instead become, just another integrated part of everyday life. I think that there's a lot of interesting things that could be happening in everybody's digital world if Web3 technologies were more integrated into our everyday lives. And I think that the onus is on us in this space who get it and who are trying to bridge that gap between Web 2 and Web 3 to bring people along on that journey, right? And I can tell you, as somebody who is new to this space and spent a lot of years working in tech and being a Web 2 person, right? I can see a lot of what Web 3 can be, and I have some notes,
Cool.
I have some feedback.
Got it. It seems like at Shrapnel, it appears that you guys are, with the whole creator economy thing, you want the players that are playing your game to have benefit from contributing to the game. It
Yes.
Not just like in some investment capacity, but to like literally benefit from building the game. That's
Yes.
what's cool about what Shrapnel's doing that I think is interesting. And that's the part of what you guys are doing that I want to succeed. I was mentioning to you before the call, my previous life before this, I built the that creator network in Web 2 and ended up being the Web 2 version, kind of what Shrapnel's doing, sort of. On YouTube, I helped like 30,000 creators make a living or make some money creating videos on YouTube and trying to help them do that through Web 2 tech. You guys are trying to do that through Web 3 tech. And what's so interesting here is before things like YouTube and Twitch and what have you, people could make content in the world or videos or whatever. And there was literally no way to make any money from that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thousands and thousands and thousands of people and businesses make videos and produce content on the internet. And now it's just accepted that if you make good content, that's worth money. And you should be getting value back from that. It looks like Shrapnel's attempting to do that, but in video games.
Yes.
How fucking cool is that?
That's exactly what we're trying to do. That is literally exactly what we're trying to do.
I think that's cool, man. I think that's really
cool.
Cool.
I mean, it's the part of the project that I think is the coolest and makes me most excited, right? I think that, crypto currency and DeFi and distributed ledgers and like everything that comes with Web3, I think it's all like really fucking punk. And it can be, it's really can be a democratizing technology if we allow it to be and we set it up to be. And that gets me really excited. I think it's interesting because we are in this time where there's a lot of discourse around toxic fan bases or, beloved franchises, for example, who don't listen to the fans and don't do what the fans want them to do. And and there's all kinds of, there's a whole world out there of fan fiction. And I don't know if any of those people are getting compensated for their fanfic. I highly doubt it. They're definitely not being paid by, Disney for their, Star Wars fanfic or whatever. But, in
Disney is not
right,
nice.
they're
And neither
not
is
nice.
Nintendo.
Right. But
yeah.
in Web3, we can absolutely say, like, yeah, go riff on our stuff, and then like put your digital, fingerprint on it, mint that to make it yours, and then you can do whatever you want with it, and you can make money off that. And the more good stuff you do, the more people are going to want what you do, which means the more money you're going to make. I mean, I don't know what is more like handing the keys to the kingdom over to the people than that, and the fact that Web3 hasn't been able to, like, as a community, get more mass adoption and more people on board with that's where some of my notes come in. I think that there's a bit of like, they want their cake and eat it too, right? They want to feel special and exclusive, like they're in on the secret thing, like they know something that the rest of the people don't know. But at the end of the day, the only way that this is sustainable and we all actually are going to make it is if we bring as many people on board as possible. And in order to do that, we have to, like, extend our hand across the aisle to Web 2 and, like, invite them to join us and educate them and make the Web 3 experience more user friendly, so that people that aren't as deeply ingrained in this community, who don't understand how wallets work, who don't understand, what all these different exchanges means and all that kind of stuff, right? We need to make it easier for them to get on board and participate with us.
Preach it, Naomi. Preach it. I love it. You can't say, I want to be exclusive, I want to be in on this thing first, and I don't want anybody around, and then say, but I also want millions of people to come in here and pump my project. Those two things those two ideas do not line up.
No.
That's our closing thought here. I love that. I love the way you put that. That was great. If anybody wants to check you out or check out Shrapnel, what should they be doing here?
Well, you can join our Discord, which I don't know how to tell you how to do that, but I know that if you go to our website, www.shrapnel.com, there is a link somewhere, probably in multiple places. It'll take you to our Discord, and you can also follow us on Twitter at PlayShrapnel. And if you want to hear my musings about daily life, which sometimes involve shrapnel and sometimes do not, you can follow me on Twitter at Misnomers, MISSGNOMERS.
Links are in the description, guys. This is what we do at Illuvium. We want not just a couple 100,000, not just a couple million. We want hundreds of millions and eventually billions of players in here in the Web3 gaming space. And so projects like Shrapnel and other credible projects out there that we're hoping can bring AAA gaming to the space, we're gonna give them a showcase, and we're gonna speak with them and talk ideas and work as an industry to figure out the best models and the best path forward. And Naomi, I really appreciate you sharing your insights with us today on IlluviTalks.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. I had a really good time.
Good, me too. Everyone, outro music, do. I'll see you on the next episode of IlluviTalks. And by the way, this episode will be in audio format. If you guys are not already there, illuvium.buzzsprout.com. All of the words that Naomi and I said will be on every single podcasting platform that exists. Go check it out, illuvium.buzzsprout.com, and you can check out the audio version of this and share it with all of your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week on IlluviTalks. Adios.